Hey guys, this is Production Music Live, and today we are going to make this kind of progressive house, chord progression and this melody here. And I'm just showing you a possible way to achieve this kind of progression. We are going to start really basic and talking a bit about scales and chords. And if you want to learn more about music theory and chord progression, check out our new course. You find a link in the description. And so let's start. So let's say we compose our song in a minor scale, which is pretty common in electronic dance music. For visual purposes, we are picking the A minor scale because the A minor scale consists out of all the white notes on your keyboard. So it's pretty easy to follow. Let's have a closer look at A minor. A minor starts at A, moves on to B, to C, to D, to E, to F, G, and A. So this is the A minor scale. And the minor scale code is a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So we could apply this to any other key. For example, we could go down to D. So now we have different notes in our scale because we are starting at a different note, but it's still a minor scale. And as you can see, it's a whole step, half step, and so on. And as you can see, this scale is slightly different to the A minor scale because we are not using the B, but the A sharp here. So let's go back to the A minor. Okay, so now we know our scale and we know our notes. So if you're composing in, let's say, A minor, like in this case, it's always nice to start with A minor because this is your root, this is your basic chord of your progression. So A minor consists out of the notes A, C, and E. So if you know your scale, it's pretty easy to come up with a chord because it's always the first, the third, and the fifth note of your scale. So for example, we could pick up an F and then we go the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth. So this would be a chord as well. So but how you can see, it's slightly different to the first chord because the first chord we drew in has just two steps in between the first two notes, and the second one has three steps. So the first one we are calling a minor chord, in this case A minor, sounds like this. And the second one is a major chord. Okay, now let's start. So now we could go down the scale, and if we go down the scale, our next note is the G. And if we want to make a chord out of the G, it would be the first, the third, and the fifth note of the scale. So G, the third is a B, and the fifth is a D. So remember, we are just using the white notes because the white notes are our scale. And if we fold, we can see the first, the third, and the fifth note. And here as well, the first, the third, and the fifth. Even those two chords are different. And they're not just different by the notes, but they are also different by the quality. So let's unfold. Let's listen in. So we could go down even once more and we make another chord. So the first, the third, and the fifth. Let's listen in again. So, but now I don't like this change here. So why not picking another chord? For example, a C major chord would be in the scale as well. You can see this chord is using only white notes, and this is the first, second, the third, fourth, and the fifth, okay? So let's listen. So this sounds strange a bit now because we have this big step here falling down to the next chord. But what we can do now is just changing the voicing of the chord. And for example, we could move the C down here up an octave. So now we still have a C major chord because C, E and G, but it's voiced up differently. And this is called the first inversion of C major. So this one is the root position of C major. This is the first inversion. And if we move this up an octave, this would be the second inversion of C major. And if we do the step again, what we are having is no inversion, so the root position of C major just an octave higher than we had before. So this was our starting point, and let's move up this and this as well. So let's have a listen. So this sounds much nicer now, and we can move on with the next chord. And I'm hearing an F here, so let's draw in an F chord. And if we are in A minor, the chord starting with F is an F major chord, because we can see that we are taking, this is the first note, second, third, fourth and fifth, and we can see we have 3 steps in between here, so this is a major chord. So let's duplicate this. So same thing here as before. We are just taking the lower note and moving it up an octave. And what we have here is the first inversion of F major, F, A and C, and the F is up here, so that means this is the first inversion. Okay, sounds nice, and now we just need another 2 chords, I would say, which are bringing this chord progression to a resting point. So, for example, we could take again a G here, and then we could move up to an A. So G, the first note is the G, the third and the fifth note of the scale makes our chord. We can see it's a major chord because we have 3 steps here in between, or we can say we have a major third, and this would be a minor third. So here, for example, this is a minor third, and we are ending up with an A minor again. So A, C and E, minor third, major third, so it's a minor chord. So this is pretty common. You're starting with your root chord and you're ending with your root chord, or you're just starting with your root chord, or you're just ending with your root chord. So let's have a listen. Okay, sounds nice. So now let's try to make those chords a little bit more interesting, and let's add some more tension into this chord progression, because this is what makes a good chord progression. It's building up tension and releasing the tension. So what we could do first is taking this bass note here So now we could go up the scale, and this would be an B, and this B is fitting this chord pretty well because we have a G, B and a D in our chord, and so this B would be the third of our chord. So let's listen in. Let's go up here as well, and as we know, we have a C major chord here, C, E and G in the second inversion, and we are moving up from E to B to C, which is the root of this chord. So this is fitting pretty well. So now this progression really tells me to move up another step, and another step would be an D. And now this is getting more interesting because, as we can see, we have an F major chord here, F, A and C, but the D isn't part of this F major chord. And this is changing the chord. It's not only an F major chord anymore, but it's we call it an F major add 2 chord. And why is that so? Because let's move this down. We have here our basic chord F, A and C. So the first, third and fifth, and the D would be the sixth note in our scale. And so we call this chord an F major sixth. So, but we had this an octave up, and we want to have this an octave down, and let's have a listen. So as you can hear, this D is doing a lot to the progression because it's building up more tension. So now we just have to find another 2 notes here and we could go up here as well. So let's listen in. This would be possible as well. So, but as I said before, we need some tension, and we built some tension here with the D, but now we need some releasing points. So we're just taking the root of the chord, which is in G, and we are taking a root of the next chord, which is an A. So let's listen in again. So, sounds nice already. So, but now we're starting with an A, a simple A minor chord, and we are ending with an A minor chord. So maybe let's change this first chord here, and we could add, for example, a G. This would be an A minor, and this G is the 7th degree of the scale, starting with A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's called an A minor 7. So let's listen in. And of course, if we move the G 1 octave down, this is still an A minor 7th chord, but just voiced up differently. So I like it more here, and we can add another note here, and this is the A, the tonic, to give it a little less tension, because our ears are really sensitive to the highest note of a chord and the lowest note of a chord. And so you should always try to have some nice melody with your highest notes of your chords and with the lowest notes of your chord. Okay, cool. I think we can let it stay like this. And now we are going to make some nice melody. And we are copying those MIDIs. And I'm moving them up a few octaves. And I'm deactivating them. So now we always know which chord is playing. So this is more simple for us. So what we need now is a nice rhythm for our melody. So we're trying to make a progressive house melody, and therefore let's try to stay really basic. So this A is already pretty cool because it's the root of the chord. And so let's move this down here to an G. And this, for example, to an C. This to an F, like the chord. G and A as well. So now we are playing like the bass would do, because the bass is always playing the roots of the chords. Like we have it here, so the A, the G of the G major chord, the C of the C major chord, the F of the F major add 2 chord, and the G of the G major chord, and the A of the A minor chord. And but I don't like this step here, so why not moving this up? And as you can see, we have a C major chord here, and the C major chord consists out of the note C, E and G. So this should work really fine. Let's listen in. So now we have those extra notes here, and let's make a nice melody out of it. So I'm taking this note and this note up and this note. So the nice thing is, if you know your scale, actually now you can take any note of the scale and for your melody, and it would sound okay. So let's listen in. I don't know how this sounds exactly, so I just picked a D. So, and we could take an C as well. As you can see, there are many possibilities now. I like it up here, an E. So nice. And we have another extra notes here, and we can change this note as well. Now that you know your scale, you just can, you know, pick any note and just listen in. Okay, so I think you get the idea. Like I mentioned before, we made a course about harmony and chord progression where we go much more in detail. If you're interested, check the link in the description. If you're interested in those sounds here, they are out of our Progressive House preset pack for Massive. Check out the link in the description as well. So subscribe to our channel and hope to see you next time. Bye.